It was a crisp morning in the mountains, the kind of day where the air smelled of pine and freedom. My cabin sat on a ridge overlooking the lake, a modest structure I had poured years of work and love into. It wasn't just a cabin. It was my sanctuary. Every beam of wood, every stone in the fireplace, and every nail hammered into the walls carried a memory. This was where my father taught me to fish, where my wife and I celebrated our first anniversary, and where my daughter took her first steps. The cabin was more than property. It was a piece of my life carved into the wilderness. But to the Homeowners Association, or more specifically to Karen, the self-appointed queen of the HOA, it was just another target. For months, she had been sending letters, claiming I owed association fees for land that had never once been under HOA control. My cabin predated their development by decades, and my deed was crystal clear. The HOA had no authority here. But Karen wouldn't let it go. Each letter grew bolder, more aggressive, until she finally claimed I owed thousands of dollars in back dues and threatened legal action. I ignored her nonsense, confident the law was on my side. That morning, as I sipped my coffee by the window, I heard the unmistakable rumble of heavy machinery. At first, I thought it was road work down by the main highway, but when I stepped outside, my stomach dropped. A caravan of trucks and bulldozers was crawling up the ridge, led by Karen herself, standing tall in the passenger seat of a white SUV, barking orders into a radio like she was leading a military operation. "Today, we take back what's ours," she shouted as the machines parked in front of my cabin. I sprinted down the porch steps, waving my deed in the air. "This is private property. You have no authority here," I shouted, my voice echoing across the trees. Karen sneered. "You've ignored every notice. Today we collect. Consider this cabin condemned until you pay your fees in full." I laughed in disbelief, though inside I was boiling with rage. "Condemned? You're out of your mind. You can't touch this property." But Karen didn't care. She signaled to the bulldozer operator, and the machine roared to life. The steel blade lowered, dirt crunched under the treads, and I felt my world closing in. What Karen didn't know, however, was that I wasn't alone in the cabin that day. Inside, waiting patiently for me to finish my morning coffee, was none other than the State Attorney General. The Attorney General had agreed to meet me at my cabin to review documents about HOA corruption in the county. I had been collecting evidence for months, building a case that could expose the shady deals, fraudulent fines, and illegal land grabs that HOA leadership had been running under Karen's direction. The Attorney General was intrigued enough to take a personal interest, and we had set the meeting at my cabin for privacy and security. So while Karen was preparing to bulldoze my home into splinters, she was about to destroy government property in the process. And the government does not take that lightly. The first strike of the bulldozer's blade hit the porch railing. Wood splintered like gunfire. My heart sank as I realized Karen had gone too far. The Attorney General rushed to the doorway, wide-eyed. Witnessing the madness unfolding outside, "What on earth is happening here?" he demanded. I turned toward him, my voice shaking with rage but steady with resolve. "That, sir, is the HOA I've been telling you about, and you just saw with your own eyes they think they're above the law." The Attorney General stepped forward, his presence commanding instant respect. Even the bulldozer paused as Karen's eyes went wide at the sight of him. She hadn't expected anyone else inside, certainly not one of the highest law enforcement officials in the state. "What's your name?" the Attorney General asked sternly, pointing directly at Karen. She stammered, I'm the HOA president, and this man hasn't paid his dues. This is legal enforcement of our rights." The Attorney General cut her off, his voice booming like thunder. "Legal enforcement? You are trespassing on private property. You are committing vandalism, destruction of property, and possibly assault with a deadly machine. And you are doing it in front of the State Attorney General of this state." The color drained from Karen's face. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. The bulldozer operator killed the engine, suddenly realizing he was part of something far beyond an HOA dispute. The rest of her entourage shifted uneasily, whispers spreading through the crowd. Karen tried to recover, but it was too late. The Attorney General pulled out his phone and made a single call. Send law enforcement to Ridgeview Lake. HOA criminal activity in progress. Bring backup. In that moment I realized Karen had not only crossed the line, she had obliterated. If the battle over my cabin was no longer just about me, it was about holding an entire corrupt system accountable, and justice had just arrived. The minutes after the Attorney General made that call felt like hours. The ridge was filled with tension so thick you could almost taste it. Karen's face shifted from arrogance to panic, her voice rising as she tried to rally her HOA board members. "This is still our jurisdiction. We're allowed to enforce fees," she screeched, but her voice cracked with desperation. The Attorney General fixed his eyes on her. "You're not allowed to bulldoze private property without a court order, and even if you had one, this cabin is outside your HOA's jurisdiction. Do you understand the gravity of what you've just done?" Karen's lips trembled. For the first time, the queen of the HOA looked powerless. Within 15 minutes, the sound of sirens echoed through the trees. Multiple sheriff's vehicles and state police cruisers climbed the ridge, lights flashing against the evergreens. Officers spilled out, weapons at the ready, unsure what kind of standoff they were walking into. The Attorney General greeted them with a wave. "Stand down. This isn't a shootout, but arrests need to be made." The officers quickly moved in. Karen was the first to be cuffed, protesting and kicking as they dragged her toward a patrol car. "This is harassment. I was protecting our community," she shrieked. The Attorney General leaned close enough for her to hear. "You weren't protecting anyone, you were abusing power, and now you'll answer for it." As Karen screamed, the rest of the HOA board tried to scatter. Some begged for forgiveness, others claimed they had no idea what Karen was planning, but the Attorney General wasn't buying it. "You followed her here with heavy machinery," he said coldly. "That makes you complicit." The bulldozer operator raised his hands. "I was just hired for the job. I didn't know—" "You'll have your chance to explain," the Attorney General replied, signaling for the man to be detained as well. I stood on my porch, or what was left of it, watching the entire scene unfold. My cabin bore the scars of the bulldozer's first strike, splintered wood scattered across the ground. It hurt to see my home damaged, but I knew the bigger picture was unfolding right before my eyes. The Attorney General turned back to me. "You've done this state a service by documenting their corruption. Today you've given us more evidence than we could have ever hoped for. Not only were they extorting fees, but now they've committed destruction of property in front of a state official. That's felony-level crime." I nodded, my chest tight with both relief and anger. I just wanted them to leave me alone. I never thought it would come to this. He placed a hand on my shoulder. "That's how corruption works. It starts small, a fee here, a fine there. Then people like Karen start believing they have absolute power. But today proves something important. The law is stronger than any HOA board." The sheriff approached, nodding toward the detained group of HOA board members. "We'll be booking them for conspiracy, trespassing, destruction of property, and attempted fraud. This'll go a long way in court." Karen's voice carried over the commotion, shrill and defiant even in handcuffs. "You'll regret this. I'll sue every one of you. You can't stop the HOA." The Attorney General didn't even turn to face her. "You can sue from a prison cell." Her face went pale again. The crowd dispersed slowly as the trucks and bulldozers were towed away. Officers collected statements, and the Attorney General assured me his office would personally oversee the charges. That night, as I sat in my cabin, looking at the splintered railing and the cracked steps, I felt a strange calm. For the first time in years, I knew the HOA would no longer have the power to harass me. Their leader was behind bars, their board under investigation, and their grip on the community crumbling. I picked up the phone and called my wife. "It's over," I told her softly. "The cabin's safe, and so are we." The next day, headlines across the state carried the story. State Attorney General. Witnesses HOA demolition attempt, arrests made. For years people had whispered about HOA abuse, but now there was proof, undeniable, irrefutable proof, that these associations could go too far. My case became a rallying cry for homeowners everywhere, and new laws were drafted to limit HOA authority and protect individual property rights. In the end, my cabin wasn't just my home anymore. It became a symbol that one person standing up against corruption could make a difference. And no matter how powerful an HOA president thinks they are, they will never be above the law. If you're new here, please subscribe to my channel, Joe A. Karen Stories.